Action.
Action, says producer 1 in the background and producer 2 in front of us. Welcome everyone to our home Tallahassee studios. As you can see, I got my Florida State hat on and I got my SANDCAST sweatshirt right here. Austin is rocking a Raven shirt because at the time of this filming, we're about to play the Steelers on wildcard weekend. If you want some SANDCAST merch, you can go to madeinvsa.com/SANDCAST. Got a full store out there for you. That is not the reason that I'm recording this intro, a rare intro to an episode with Ian Capp, who is the head coach of the Stevenson Men's Beach Volleyball Team. They won the AVCA National Championships back in November in Huntsville. Me and Nick Lucena were actually on the call for that. And it blew my mind because Stevenson was 12 miles from where I grew up, and now they're men's beach volleyball national champions. And you might be wondering, wait, there's men's beach volleyball in college? Yes, it's a thing, and I talk all about that with Ian Capp, the head coach. As Austin says, volleyball. It's his favorite word. It's his favorite thing to do. But I also wanted to give a heads up. So we have new mics right now. As you can see, it's right here on my shirt, and they're super mobile, and so it's what I'm going to be using to shoot podcasts at home, shoot podcasts in our Florida State studios, and a lot of them when I go on the road with Volleyball World. And it's just a direct link to the phone. In this case, we were shooting in 4K, which took up a lot of memory, and we run out of memory like an hour and 17 minutes into the episode. By that point, we'd covered all the important stuff, but there's just an abrupt stop. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. That's why there's an abrupt stop. Ran out of memory. First time using it, second time, third time actually, because we did this with Alexis Durish, and I upgraded. So I filmed the Alexis Durish episode, which you can find on our YouTube channel, audio, wherever you find it. Filmed that in 1080, didn't think it looked great, and so now we're going to be filming all these in 4K, which looks way better, and that's what I filmed the Beach Pro Tour Player Awards in, and you can see the difference. And so shooting in 4K didn't account for the extra memory it would take, didn't expect the episode. We probably chatted, me and Ian, for an hour 40, and then I got back and saw that I'd run out of memory. So that's what happens there. So there's an abrupt stop, but I highly recommend you listen to the episode because it's packed full of good stuff, all about men's beach volleyball in the college game and where it's headed. So enjoy this episode with my buddy Ian Capp. Got to film it at home. It was awesome. So enjoy. Thank you as always to producer 1, producer 2, and soon to be producer 3. Hopefully by the time you guys are listening to it, we don't have a producer 3 yet. Shoots. Yeah, so that's recording. Ian Capp, you're going to be one of the first episodes of 2025. So for viewers' sake, we're kind of in my childhood home, Stevenson University. I didn't go here, but this was like my high school's 13th grade, basically. So I grew up North Carroll High School, and it was either Stevenson, Western Maryland, which is now McDaniel, or Towson. And I ended up going to University of Maryland. So when I saw you guys in Huntsville for the AVCA National Championships, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Because me and Nick Lucena were commentating, and Nick was like, do you know any of these schools? It's like Erskine, Weber, Stevenson from Maryland. I was like, no. And so I'm curious, so you're the head coach at Stevenson. You've been here for 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just so curious, like, how did all this come about?
So my last job I was at, which is Misericordia University up in northern PA, Scranton area.
Yeah.
My old boss, head coach, actually went here as well to Stevenson. He was part of that 2014 team that made the Final Four, and I got in contact with him because I was a graduate assistant. I was leaving, like I only had like maybe 3 months left on my contract.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like, you know any jobs that might be, worth looking at? And he's like, well, do you want to stay in indoor volleyball, or like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to play overseas? Like, what are you thinking about doing? I'm like, well, I kind of think I want to stay in the States. Like, I was getting married the following year, so that was 2023.
Yeah.
I was getting married in April of 2024. I was like, well, I kind of want to stay. Like, I don't want to just leave my wife or future wife. So I was like, what do you know about anything? He's like, well, I know that Stevenson Men's Beach is like getting started. I know the guy there is potentially going to leave. Like, he has a full-time job, and they want to at least make it like more of a legitimate program.
Yeah.
So he's like, reach out to Brett Adams. I can give you his phone number. Brett Adams is the AD here at Stevenson, and I can give you his contact info. And once you get in contact with him, he'll probably at least give you some contact info to get in contact with the old head coach, Eric. And got in contact with Eric. We got dinner at one of the shopping malls down here, just outside of where we're at right now. And we just talked volleyball for like an entire like hour and a half. And he's like, I want to give you the program. He was like, I went into that dinner wanting to just be the assistant.
Right.
And he was like, I want to give you the program. So
that worked.
It was amazing. Like, it was amazing. Like a week later, I got in contact with Brett Adams, and Brett was like, we want to offer you the position to coach here. Like, it'll be part-time the first year. You'll be head coach for the men and then assistant women's this year. And that was last spring when I was the women's assistant. And then like May comes around, and the women's coach was the head women's indoor and beach.
Okay.
He told me, like the day that he told the women's team, he's like, yeah, I'm retiring. So you're going to be the head coach for both the men's and the women's now. And I was like, what? It was like a complete 180 from where I started, because I wanted to just be the assistant here and like just see where that took me.
Right.
And then was basically just given both programs within a year.
Okay. That happened quick.
Very. Way quicker. Like, I was hoping that would happen eventually. I just didn't think it would happen within, less than 365 days.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I mean, the program itself, this is your second year. It's only been going for 2022 first year?
Yeah, 2022 was the first year.
Do you know what prompted the athletic director to start a men's beach volleyball program? Because I don't think many people know that men's beach volleyball exists at the college level.
Yeah, so he started the women's program back in 2015, I believe. Okay. And he wanted to be the first D3 team for the women when they started the program, when they announced.
Did he accomplish that?
He did.
Is this the first?
Yep. Okay. For the women, they were the first. And then for the men, he was like in the same boat. He like just wanted approval from the president at the time. He's like, do I have permission to start a men's team?
Yeah.
And they just gave parameters like, hey, you just gotta separate it enough eventually.
Right.
And we're okay with that. And he was like, okay, we're gonna do it. And they announced in 2022 that they were gonna start the men's team for beach. And same thing, like he wanted to be the first one, in hopes that other D3 teams and other teams in general would just add on,
right.
Which they have. And hopefully we're still trying to get more, but that was the goal. He just wanted to be the first one, and then hopefully dominoes fell eventually that more teams would start to add.
Yeah. So who right now? So the only schools that I know college-wise that have programs are the ones that I saw. So Weber I've known for a little while. Erskine I just discovered. Am I even pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Erskine. Liberty's got one. Mm-hmm. Who else has programs?
So those three you just mentioned, us obviously. There's Reinhardt down in, I believe they're from Georgia.
Okay.
Stetson is looking to add, I believe. I've heard rumors that Jacksonville State might want to add.
Okay.
Virginia Tech might be trying to add.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one because that's a local, quote unquote, for us.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get Towson to add because like we have club tournaments here every once in a while, like just for practice matches. Like the teams and the quality isn't as good as like what we see normally in a regular season, but it's still like matches and stuff that our guys get experience from.
Yeah.
So like Towson, UMBC, Baltimore County, and a bunch of other schools. We're trying to get more of them to at least jump ship and be like, hey, like not jump ship, like jump on board, like be like, hey, let's start a men's team. Like it's just your indoor guys playing beach to start, and like eventually, you can separate it enough if you have enough guys and enough interest.
Right.
And like obviously up here, you get 6, 7, 8 months of good weather to do it, and it's not like you need to play beach during December, January, because like you're off school for most of that anyway. Like this year we had amazing weather all the way up until national championship weekend. Like we didn't have to miss a practice because of weather, like cold weather or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're trying to get more teams to just want to add. Like if we can get more teams that are like, hey, like let's just get our indoor guys like trained during the fall for beach and indoor. Like you can do both. Like Liberty does both. Like they separate every other day they do a different practice, whether it's an indoor practice or a beach practice.
Yeah.
And sometimes I believe that they'd even do both practices in the same day if they need to. So like if we can just get guys and teams that are like, hey, let's just do it. Like that's all you really need. You just need 12 guys.
Yeah. And there's who's the college in Irvine?
In California.
Yeah.
It was Westcliff.
That's it.
Originally, yeah. They started out this year. I don't know why. It was like there was like a whole bunch of rumors going around, like at the beginning of the year, or back in the summer, I should say, that their athletic department like cut every program for like all athletics.
Yeah.
And then it got backtracked to like, oh, it's just men's beach that got cut. So, and that was a incredible school. Like they won the last two.
Right?
They won the last two national championships prior to this one. Like DJ Klasnick, as one of their standouts.
I always give him so much shit I'm like, DJ, you're 30 years old. You've been playing professionally. Like, let the kids have their time.
And that was the thing last year. It was the same thing. Like he was talking so much like shit talk the entire time, and my guys are like, he's genuinely like 8 years older than us, and
He's a man.
I'm like, it's okay. I was like, it's okay. You're at least competitive with him. Like, it's okay. Like, don't be upset. Like, you're fine. Like, just keep playing like against him. Like, we went, 21-19, 22-20, like both sets against him, and I believe it was Muhammad, his partner.
Okay.
And it was like, hey, this is awesome. Like, you guys are playing fine. Like, it just shows that we're like right there. Like, in that year, we didn't do that great. Like at Weber, same thing. They didn't do that great. They lost to, I believe it was Lincoln Memorial.
Okay.
Who also, same kind of situation with as Liberty, where they do like both indoor and outdoor practices, like same day potentially, and like with the Hurricanes and everything this year, like them and Tusculum, I also didn't mention them. They both like got hammered by the Hurricanes. So, like both of them didn't really end up having seasons at all because their facilities got destroyed. Yeah, we were supposed to go down there in October. Early October, and that was right after Helene hit, and I think Tusculum was out of school for like 2 or 3 weeks straight because of no power and anything, and Lincoln Memorial I think was kind of in the same boat. Maybe not as bad.
I didn't realize ULM would have been hit that, because that's in Tennessee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Harrogate, Tennessee.
Man, I didn't realize Tennessee got bashed that bad.
Yeah, like that northeastern corridor of Tennessee got ripped apart.
It was crazy. So Helene was going through at the weekend I was driving from California to Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. And Tallahassee, when you looked at the map, I mean, it was supposed to go right through it. And it just, like, it drizzled. And then it just mashed Asheville. I didn't know that it hit ULM that bad, though. Yeah,
like, we were supposed to have, like, a massive, like, every team was going to go and play in, like, this big event. And it was going to be literally, like, 8 teams playing.
Yeah.
And it was, like, I guess that Monday or Tuesday was when they got hammered, and they were like, yeah, the courts are completely destroyed. Like, we cannot, like, the sand is, like, gone.
Damn. That's a bummer. That's actually, it's funny, well, not funny, but ironic, because when Pepperdine built their courts on campus, that's when my wife was coaching there, and they get those Santa Ana winds. I don't know how much time you spent in California, but you can feel it when it gets real still and dry in Hermosa, and the water's that perfect glass. You're like, the mountains are having a tough day today. And so they would get 100-mile-an-hour winds. And so one day they just went and their courts were gone. The wind just completely blew them away. And so they've since kind of changed the way that they've been built. But that happens.
Yeah, like, and thankfully, like, again, like where our location is, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like we will like get wind every once in a while, but like, we're not training beach winds like we normally would, like, Gulf Shores or anything like that, or maybe not, like Gulf Shores, or even playing down in Florida. Like, the most wind, we'll get is maybe 15 miles an hour, 20 max, and like at 20, we're like, do we really want to train today?
Yeah.
Like, we'll train like technical work, but like we're not going to play. Like, we're not going to do challenge matches because like it's not, it just doesn't make sense. Like, we'll just, just get our technical session and just get some service receive reps, and like, hey, let's train service even the wind and like serving in the wind, and at least try to get something out of it.
Yeah.
And the guys are like, this is kind of a waste of time. I'm like, well, yes and no.
Yeah.
It is.
I think it's super valuable, because then when you go to play a windy match, you've done it before. So it was funny, like we would, when I lived in California and was playing, we would train in the afternoons a lot, and we would wait, like as soon as it was Whitecaps, we're like, all right, let's go. Let's just play for 2 hours and just compete in the wind, and you figure stuff out. It's because you're going to have to play in it eventually.
Yeah.
And even though this seems pretty well protected here, but you go down to that first day in Huntsville, that was cold, rainy, breezy, and you get used to it.
I think that played in our favor too, because we were just so used to the cold. Like, in terms of like actual weather, like we're almost 300 miles north of the next closest school at Liberty. So like we're just so used to playing in somewhat cold weather, like 50s, high 40s,
Right.
low 50s, like. And now for us, I was like, it's warm. That's good enough for us. Like,
got any SandSock sponsors?
we did get sand socks provided by this one company down in New Zealand of all places.
Okay.
They reached out to us and were like, "Hey, do you want free sand socks? Like, just give us reviews and like we'll ship them out." I'm like, "Yeah, we'll do free.
Perfect.
Like, we don't. Yeah, we'll do whatever."
Yeah.
And we only had to wear them like maybe 3 or 4 times total, like including
not bad.
down in nationals. Yeah,
So
like,
it was a pretty warm fall here.
very
Yeah.
warm. Like way like maybe at least 10 degrees warmer than normal. Like even our last week of training before nationals, which was it was like 2.5 weeks later than last year's nationals, we still had like 60-degree days.
Okay. Yeah, Maryland's weird like that. I mean, growing up in this area, like it'll be 65 one day and then you wake up the next day and it's snowing.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell's wrong with you, Maryland? Like I remember when I was a kid, I had a baseball game snowed out in April. I was like, this is ridiculous. Maryland weather, like the Maryland, Pennsylvania, like even Northern Virginia, the weather's just drunk all the time. Doesn't know what it's doing.
Every year, like you just never know. They'll be like, "Oh, we're gonna get 8 inches and like the next morning, you're like, we got less than a layer,
Right.
Like less than a sheet." Or they'll be like, "All right, we're just gonna get a dusting," and then you wake up and you're like, "We have 17 inches."
Yeah.
Like what happened?
It's nuts. Well, and the reason that I moved, the winter that I moved, we had like 80 some inches of snow for the year. And I was like, I'm out. So I just applied to all jobs south of Virginia, ended up in Florida, which is where I found beach volleyball. But then it hasn't hit that much snow since I moved. I was like, I'm out of here. Can't do it.
Yeah, every year the Farmer's Almanac's like, "Yeah, this is gonna be the worst winter in history," and we get like 3 inches total. I was like when I was up at school, when I was at my old job up in Scranton, like in the Poconos, we had maybe a combined 10 inches in 2 years that I was there.
Yeah.
Which is like, they'll get 10 inches in one day.
Overnight, you'll just wake up and it's there.
Like it was crazy. Like we haven't had any snow up here really. Like even for the women's season, like last year we have shovels in the shed for us to have to shovel snow off, and we haven't had to use them yet.
Yeah.
Like for either men or women, it's crazy.
What's the tougher season? So you do men in the fall, women in the spring, and weather-wise, my guess would be men. The fall would be a little bit easier, but I don't know.
The men is definitely easier for weather, just because like it's more predictable.
Yeah.
Like we start in 90-degree weather back in August, and then we'll go all the way, like I said, until mid-November. And typically in November you would expect 40, 50-degree weather, and we just got really lucky this year. I already know the women's season. Like today's abnormal. Like today's almost 60 degrees. We're going to be close to 60 degrees. Like we'll start first week of February.
Okay.
And I'm predicting that it'll probably be. It has to be above 40 degrees, including wind chill, for us to practice outside.
Really?
So
is that an NCAA thing, or is that just kind of a...
I think it's a Stevenson thing.
Got it.
I mean, that's just what I was told when I started last year. There's the athletic trainer's like, just 40 degrees, including wind chill, and you're good.
Got it.
Any day that's close, I'm just like, hey, what's the wind chill? Like, what's the actual feels like? And they're like, it's 43. I'm like, okay, we're practicing.
Yeah.
So...
You get it's 41, wink, wink.
It's cold. Like I'd rather practice outside in the cold because, it's still training in the sand. Like the sand is still.
It's so different.
Because it's either that we practice inside and then our times are different. Now we have to practice because of men's volleyball, basketball is both practicing. Like we'd be practicing 10 to midnight or even midnight to 2 a.m. Like if we really had to, I'm like, I just don't want to do that. And I know that they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like it just
I
doesn't
didn't even
make
think about that, sharing facilities.
It just doesn't make any logistical sense. Or we'd have to go like 8 a.m. or 6 a.m., whatever it is. Like that just, again, doesn't make any logistical sense for us to do that. And like with it being cold up here, like we can't host any matches officially until April because we just don't know the weather situation. Right. So like our home event, our only home event is April 11th, I believe, 10th and 11th. And it's just because we know that it should be, in the 50s or hopefully in the 50s. Yeah. Like last year was close to not being in the 50s. Yeah. Like the morning, like we have to start our matches on Saturdays a little later just in case. Like we'll do 10 or even 11 a.m. start because it's like we just don't know if it's going to be warm enough at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. to even be on the courts like officially. Because again, like the 40 degree, including wind chill, like we want to make sure that the other teams are not miserable as long, like on top of us as well. Yeah.
Gotta be good hosts.
We tried our best.
Dude, it's funny. We at Florida State, we host a home tournament at the end of February every year. And the first time that I went, I was actually writing about Florida State for Volleyball Mag, and I went, and it was like 38 degrees. Because Tallahassee gets cold. Because it's basically like southern Alabama.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, like my parents, when they come down, we're going to visit sunny Florida. I'm like, it's cold in the winter. Like it's the same weather in Maryland as it is in Florida right now. So that gets chilly. But obviously Florida warms up a little bit and it's a little bit easier. But with you guys, with the men, you're probably able to host a little bit more, I would guess, because the fall is like pretty nice weather out here.
Yeah, like we try to host at least 1 to 2 in September. Like we host the USA Challenge event for Collegiate Challenge event. That's the second weekend of September every year. I believe we renewed the contract. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% certain if we did or not.
Yeah.
But we've hosted that the last 3 years, and the weather has been amazing. Both years I was here was amazing. Apparently the first year was not great, but both years I've been here, it's been amazing. We try to host something the week before, just so our guys that are playing in the challenge event can get reps against teams that aren't just our guys.
Right.
And then we usually try to host one event at the very end of September, because then, again, October gets into that like risky range of if it's going to be warm enough, if the weather's going to be good enough. Because if it rains, it's going to be too cold. Yeah. Like honestly, if it just rains, it's going to be in the 40s. Yep. So we try to host in September as much as we can, and then if we do host in October, it's like first, maybe second week at latest. Because like not this past year, but the year prior, we hosted like end of October, and that was a bad idea.
Bad move.
That was not my schedule. Not my schedule. That was the old head coach. He made the schedule, and I looked at him. I'm like, "This is the schedule you made." I'm like, "Okay, we'll do it."
Halloween weekend in Northern Maryland's not warm. It's not balmy.
No, it was not. Not warm at all. It was. I think it was 42 degrees at night when we played that Friday night for senior day or for senior night, and it was. Like we had guys playing in beanies, we had guys playing in pajama pants,
I bet.
undershirts. Like it was sand socks. Obviously, we had guys that you couldn't see any skin under their face.
Yeah,
like that was all that was showing.
Well, I mean, you go to California. Like when I coached Bourne this year, and it'd be 70 degrees, and he's in a beanie and mittens. Beach volleyball players aren't built for cold.
We'd pay for 70-degree weather in September, in October.
How do you go about recruiting kids to come here? Because there's no. Like high school men's volleyball, especially in this area, like I was telling you, it's just not a thing, really. Because I grew up and volleyball was a girls' sport, as it is for most of the areas in the country. So where do you recruit kids from to come here?
Yeah, so honestly, because of my standing in the indoor/grass stuff up in PA, there's a lot of kids that are interested from like the Philly area, from the York area, from like central PA. That's good ball, and because they play so much grass, they have the beach technical work, the technical ability. So we've had a lot of interest from just those kids alone. And Jersey, obviously being close by, you got the whole Eastern Seaboard. So, you know, just from the fact that we're a local school for those kids that want to play like that love playing grass volleyball, we're like the first school they reach out to because we have beach. And
makes sense.
It's the same, but not the same. Like obviously, it's not the same in the fact that like beach is a lot more technical than grass. Grass is much more power oriented, like indoor. But
it's it's a nice middle ground between indoor and beach. Yeah.
So like we have so much interest from kids in Pennsylvania, even some in Maryland, but like PA and New Jersey, like we get 20, 30 emails a semester, if not more. That's mostly boys, honestly. The girls has actually been the tougher recruit because of obviously there's so many more schools. D1 got the buff in scholarships for all divisions for D1 and D2. NAI has always had their scholarships and stuff. So the success we've seen with them has also been in the PA range because we're still the most local school.
Got it.
For them. I definitely try a lot harder for the women because I know that it's a tougher recruiting cycle for them.
Right.
And the guys, it's easier in a sense just because we're, like I said, we're the most local school. So if they're from the Philly area, most likely we're one of the only schools they're talking to for beach.
Yeah.
And it's just fighting against the other indoor schools. And if they, like, the first question I ask is like, do you want to play both or do you want to play just one?
Right.
And if they say they, I'm like, okay, well, we're your only school you're going to look at, really.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go down to Liberty.
Is there a men's indoor team here? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, if you want to play both, we're definitely your number one because you want to play both. Like, okay, like I just get you in contact with the indoor coach, with Coach Gardner. If he thinks that you're good enough to at least play both, then all right, like we should be your number one. Like,
Yeah.
What other school are you going to be able to do that in?
Right.
That's at least close enough to home where you can still drive home instead of flying.
Yeah.
Like Liberty would be the next closest one, and that's still from Philly 6 hours away, or
Right.
6.5 hours away.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it just doesn't make logistical sense for those recruits to be like, yeah, let me look at Weber or
Right.
any of those schools unless they want to, go somewhere warmer and away from home. Like I've had so many kids that want to transfer here from Florida.
Yeah.
Girls, guys, like just from others, like not even just Weber, like just in general schools. Because they're like, we're homesick, we want to come home.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like you're from Philly, you're from PA, like from Maryland, Jersey, wherever, like, all right, we should be your number one. I hope we're
Right.
your number one. And it's basically from there, it's just like staying in contact with them. Like, hey, send me film every time you play. Like, I
Right.
just want to see the progress, see how you're doing. Talk to me, every 1 or 2 weeks. Just keep me updated on like where your head's at in this whole situation.
Makes sense. Is D3 beholden to Title IX? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got the same scholarship stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was just curious because Weber is NAIA.
Yeah.
Right? And so they kind of have different limitations and whatever. That's got to be a tough thing.
Yeah, for the men, it's tough because we are fighting against, like, Liberty doesn't do scholarships just because they're technically a club sport,
Okay.
but they're affiliated with AVCA.
Yeah.
Weber has the scholarships with all the international students and students in general. Lincoln Memorial, same thing. Erskine, same thing. Like, because they're D2, they still get scholarships. So, like, I think D2 and NAI are pretty similar in that regard.
Man, so D3's got different rules than D2 and NAI. Damn, you're a little handcuffed.
Yeah, we don't get any. We get no athletic scholarships here. We only can do
Academics. Yeah,
So-
that's what, because my brother, he played golf over at McDaniel. And so pretty familiar with that. Because D3, like, I feel like at McDaniel anyway, the academic and athletic department work pretty well together.
Yeah.
So the golf coach was just like, hey, nice job with this GPA. We can help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But D2, I feel like there's no rules. And NAIA, there's no rules.
It
Not
feels like that.
No rules, but it's a little bit wilder.
It feels that way. I mean, it's just because it's so different. Because like D2 obviously is very, they get half as many as D1 scholarships do.
Right.
And the NAI, I don't even know what their rules are. I really don't. Just because I've never been affiliated with an NAI school. Like they're all south.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are below Virginia line.
Yeah.
The Virginia North Carolina line. So like I'm still not even really. I don't even understand what their scholarship situation really is. I just know that they get so many international students. Like I know that Weber has between their men's indoor and beach team, they have like 40 kids.
Jeez.
So I don't know how many of them are on scholarship. I don't know what the scholarships look like. I just know that they're going for something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well I'm gonna fight for the domestic kids that are from here.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, all right, if they are very good, it's like I gotta try really, really hard to get them to understand like, all right, you want academic, like that's what we're gonna get here. Like you can't, like sorry, like I physically can't give you athletic scholarship money. Like anytime I have an international student that reaches out, like it's the first thing I ask them because I still want to at least try for them.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I say. I'm like, hey, like you understand, like we can only do academic, and like this is our number. Like this is what we can give. Like we can't give really any more unless you get the presidential scholarship, which is like the top of the top academic weapons. Like, and if you get that, then your tuition's free, but like you're still going to pay for room and board, which is still a hefty amount.
Not cheap. Yeah.
So,
what's tuition here?
Our ticket price is, I believe, like $54,000. It keeps changing. It's like $52,000 to $56,000, somewhere around that range.
Okay.
The actual amount paid is, $24,000 to $28,000 is pretty much the average. So like basically half off.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, it's funny, like, because all these rules. I don't know how D3 got skipped It's like how D2 ended up being so wild. But what's your roster right now? How many kids do you have on the men's beach?
We had 18 this year.
Okay.
Typical number, like perfect number is 16 just because we have 4 courts. That
Yep.
way, do challenge matches, everyone plays.
Yeah.
If we could add courts, obviously it's a lot of money, but like if we could add courts, then yeah, like I'd be able to have a lot more kids. I could have, 20 to 22, 24,
Yeah.
depending on like
I think
what we
18 is a good number because you start. Well, actually, men's beach, is it 5?
5
courts?
pairs. 5, well, you only need 3 to host like an event, technically, to do.
True, because then if you win all 3, then you'd win the best of 5.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like I don't know. Weber has 3. We have 4. Liberty has 4. We never went to Tusculum has 4 as well, but they were using a different facility this year, the one that got destroyed. Lincoln Memorial, I don't know what their situation is. We never played there.
How long have you guys had those courts? Do you know?
2015.
Okay. They're sweet.
They're
I was
very
surprised.
nice. Yeah.
Walking through, because I like got here a little bit early and just kind of walked around campus just to see everything again, and I saw the courts. I was like, damn, those are legit.
Yeah, we put a lot of money into them. When they built the courts, they made sure that they did it right. So they actually had a trial and error run court
Interesting.
up by the dorms in the quad,
Yeah, I walked by it.
and they learned their mistake very early because they didn't have an irrigation system underneath.
Got it.
It's completely packed sand now. They did not get the good sand; they just got
It
sand.
rains and it's like jumping off this table.
Yeah, and there's so many shells on it. So
Yeah.
they were like, all right, let's just see what we can do and see if it's good.
Yeah.
The actual net system was good. Like the actual net system isn't bad. So they did that part right, and then they were like, okay, everything else we gotta make sure we do right when we actually get the courts.
Yeah.
So I believe that court that was built up in the quad was built back in like 2014 or even
Got it.
earlier.
That's cool they did that trial and error. Smart.
Yeah, that court still is there. Like I don't know how often it gets used. Like the net stays up, I believe, all year round, just like
Yeah.
ours. Well, ours are going to get taken down just so they can redo the sand.
Got it.
But yeah, we made sure the courts were done correctly. And the only thing that we didn't do correctly is that we just don't have like an actual shower hose out there like by the
Got it.
courts. That's like the one thing we didn't think about at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not the end of the world. We still have all the locker rooms inside of caves where, if any team needs to go in, it's like, all right, like just go into the men's soccer locker room and
Yeah.
shower, go into the men's like volleyball locker room, like whatever you need to do.
Do the other sports get mad when you guys track sand in places?
That was the biggest issue after the collegiate challenge. Like I got like not ripped apart, but I got yelled at for it. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like we don't have a hose, like we don't have a
Right.
spigot or anything. Like what do you want me to do? And they're like, oh, we do have a hose out here. I'm like, where? And they still haven't told me where it is.
Yeah.
I was like, we have one, and I was like, where? And like, it's over there. I'm like, no, it's not. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So that was like the big thing. They're like, all right, well, if you guys track in sand, like just make sure you guys like vacuum it up. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like we can take care of our locker room because that's the only thing like we really have control over. So
Right.
like we have a vacuum in there. We make sure like whenever, because we bring the balls inside because when it gets too cold, we don't want them deflating. So we have
Yeah.
them. We bring the balls inside into the locker room every day after practice. And obviously they track in so much sand. So like once a week I make sure that I go in to check and see if the actual locker room's like in good shape or not.
Yeah.
And they've done well. Like after that first instance, they've been really good about it.
Yeah. It's so funny because so Florida State, we typically will have our practice and then the girls will have half an hour to get to the weight room. And it's probably like a 10-minute walk to our weight training facilities. And so they'll shower off, go to the weight facilities. But like, you know how sand is. Like it'll just cling to you.
Yeah.
Especially like if you have any hair on your arms or legs, like it's just going to stay there and then you dry off. And so I used to go to the weight room and like hang out with them while they lifted. But I would track in sand all the time. And then the girls would get in trouble. It's like, are you sorry? But it's like, I would just leave like this little trail of breadcrumbs everywhere I went. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's what our women do as well. They go right from practice, same thing, 30 minutes break, get showered
Yeah.
off, and then go right to the weight room to go lift. And
You can't get it all off.
it's impossible. It's impossible unless you do a full body shower, which I know
Yeah.
that they don't. Like you don't. It's just not
There's no
efficient
point.
enough. It's not efficient. Like don't bother. Like just get as much off as possible. That way you can go lift because you're gonna have to shower after you lift anyway.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
it's literally just a rinse and like get as like 80 to
Just do what you
85%
can.
off.
Yeah.
It is annoying. Like, obviously, I track in sand. Like, my office upstairs has so much sand on it, and there's a shower.
As it should.
And there's a shower upstairs too. And I try to shower, and I've almost clogged the drain a couple times because there's just so much sand on me. Especially after it rains. Like, if it rains at all, like, there's just a million particles of sand all over the body.
Everywhere.
And like, and every once in a while, like, I'll have to jump in for a drill, and I'm like, if I dive one time, I'm like, I'm covered in sand.
And then you're done for the day.
It literally done for the day.
Bringing it out everywhere.
That's a nightmare.
Well, so you took over 2 years ago. What's like the first? Because Westcliff was a power and Weber. Those were kind of the two that I knew were pretty good.
Yep.
Like, what's the order of events? How do you turn Stevenson into a national championship winning program?
So when I got here, we had a very good background. We had a good base team to go off of. And after my first year here last year, we only graduated 2 guys. One of them was on our threes pair, and the other one was one of our captains, but he was on one of the lower pairs, like between 5 and 6. Like, he jumped around a little bit. So, like, basically lost 1 starter and 1 like half starter. But we lost a big captain. Like, he was really good with the guys in the weight room, really good with the guys at practice. Like, got everyone to do, like, get their orders in or do whatever I needed them to do. Like, he was really good with that. So we had like a really good base with those 2, and when they left, the transition of power from those 2 to our next group of seniors was really seamless because we had 2 juniors that were really, really good with that same admin stuff piece of helping me out.
Yeah.
And then bringing Johnny back for RO.
Okay.
He was our ones. He was playing with Tim Flanagan.
Got it.
Who were on
the
the
boys who won it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It was a fun match.
it was that was a fun match. I kept running around because I couldn't figure out who to coach at the time.
Right.
But yeah, bringing Johnny back for I think it was technically his 6th year. He played at St. Francis Brooklyn when they cut the program for indoor. So he had both his grad years to play. He just didn't know if he wanted to play officially this year.
Right.
So I found out in mid-August, like maybe 2 weeks before the season started, that he was actually officially coming back.
Yeah.
And so we had to expedite everything to get all of his physical paperwork and everything done. But then found out he was coming back, and I'm like, okay, we're a legit title contender this year. Because at that point we knew Westcliff wasn't playing.
Right.
So it was I knew that it was between us, Weber, and LMU, Lincoln Memorial. And basically once October hit, once the hurricanes hit, we found out LMU wasn't going to really be playing this year. We're okay, it's just us and Weber.
Yeah.
So just with the guys that we had already in the system, on top of the couple guys that we brought in this year, brought in 4, 5, 6 freshmen this year.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be 7. I think it was 7 freshmen. Practices are really good where I was able to separate the guys into different groups based on skill level, quote unquote, their order of pairs. So I was able to have 3 courts going on at any given moment with different drills going on for them.
Yeah.
That way we can get as much done as possible. So practice-wise, we were really efficient with our training, and the guys were really good with just making sure that they were getting the touches that they needed, quality touches, rather than we tried to get quantity and quality of touches every practice, and we practiced every day as much as we could.
I was going to ask you, do you have 8 hours, 20 hours like we do at D1, or do you have?
No, it's just per day.
Okay. How many do you get per day?
We just practice 2 hours a day, and then if we practice, it's just one of our 114 days of play.
You have a certain amount of days. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have to do 2 different. Part of our season, you can only practice and lift 8 hours per week, and then once you get into your main season, then you get 20 hours per week, and it's weird having to navigate that because in the fall, a large chunk we were in 8 hours, and so we'd only be on the sand with them twice a week, and they were pretty short practices, and then the rest was lifting and recovering, whatever. So are you 5 days?
Yeah, we would do, depending on if we were traveling that week or that weekend, we would do Monday through Thursday, train, leave Friday or even leave Thursday later, and then play Friday, Saturday. And depending on the weather, later in the season, I would be like, hey guys, like, do you really want to practice 4 days a week? And most of the time they'd be like, no, like, because they were doing stuff on their own too in the mornings.
Yeah.
Like just like maybe 5, 6, 7 of them at a time. But
That's
like,
cool.
they were doing their own stuff too. So I was like, do you guys really need to practice with me 4 days, 5 days this week? And they were like, no, like let's just do 3. And we would just choose basically the worst looking day, like coldest day, most likely the rain day.
And just take it out.
Or just basically a Wednesday. Like if we were traveling Thursday, like later we would just do a practice Thursday and leave after. Or
Got it.
we would do Monday through Wednesday and leave Thursday morning, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like we were pretty good. I think we only did maybe 2 total 5-day weeks where we practiced, and that was like preseason the first week, and then like I think it was right before the challenge event where we did 5 days, and after that we were just like, all right, we don't need to practice 5 days a week because it's just going to kill our bodies. Like,
right.
We don't. Plus they were lifting on top of it. Like it was just like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And so practice planning wise, is it just you or do you have an assistant?
I had a bunch of floating assistants. No full-time assistants, but like it was me. I had my one buddy who helped out for like the first week or two until he started his full-time job, and then we had the women's one of the women's volunteer assistants. I asked him probably like a week into the season. I was like, hey, like, are you able to help at all? Like, I know you're busy with your schedule. Like,
right.
He has 2 kids and a family to take care of, and he's like, yeah, I can come help, but like maybe 1 to 2 days a week at best. I was like, I'll take whatever you can do, whatever you can give.
Right.
And like he's a very, very technical coach.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll take you any day you can come. Like, please come. Like, do whatever. Like, I'll leave your court that you're controlling. I'll leave whatever you want to do with it, and then I'll run my court the opposite skill. Like, if you want to do defense, all right, I'll do offense. If you want to work on shots or whatever you want to do, like, I'll do the opposite. I'll do whatever. So he was really, really helpful, and the guys really liked him. And he always brought his one kid because he would take him from daycare.
Yeah. And
the guys had a nickname for his kid because he would always wear this red shirt, and they would call him Big Red, and that was like the team's motto for this year. They were like, do it for Big Red.
I love that.
And it was just so funny. And obviously this kid had no idea because he was like 4 years old or 5 years old. But it was just so funny. Like every day they would come with like a wagon of toys and sandcastle stuff, and like the guys would play with them, and we would have women's practice afterwards. So the women would come play with him as well. Like they'd come early to come play with with Big Red.
Yeah, that's my son. He turns 2 in April, but he's a regular at our practices because my wife is a full-time mom, and so she'll come out to practice and he'll just hang out. It's his favorite thing in the world. Is just to play. He calls balls bops. He goes right to the equipment shed, brings out all the balls that he can, and just sits there and plays. And then our girls who are hurt just hang out with him, watch practice, and just play with my kid. And he's full-on team mascot now.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, Big Red would come like every once in a while. He would like just run on the court, and like if we were doing an offensive drill on that court, the guys would be like, "Big Red, hide!" Like get to the like. They'd be like, "Oh my God, he's running on the court! Like go shield him! Like don't let him get hit by a ball."
That's hilarious.
And he almost got bopped a couple times, and we were like, I was like, Mike, that's my assistant. I was like, Mike, like, I'm okay with your kid being here. I just don't want him getting hurt. He was like, don't worry, I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
And every day, like every time he'd come practice, Big Red would just like, he would get annoyed that like his dad was doing something not with him.
Right.
He would just be like, Daddy, and just start running on the court. And of course, like every time he'd do it, was an offensive drill.
Of course.
We were like, Big Red, you gotta hide. just hide like off the court. Like you see these green lines, like just stand off them and you're fine.
Somewhere out of there.
Like just stand anywhere but inside of them and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But no, it was amazing. He was so much fun. Like he became same thing like our mascot for the team, and it was a blast having them around all the time. Yeah.
Well, practice plan, that's got to be a challenge if you have like sometimes assistants, sometimes not. It's just you and 18 guys. That's hard.
Yeah, like it became hard. Like I would try to do like my own court where I would like micromanage that one court and be around it, but like the other courts I would try to either do like a conditioning court, agility court, where they were at least getting something, you know, like cardio wise, to train out of the sand, and then the other court would be like a gameplay court where they were playing like not kings, but like I don't like kings all that much, but like speedball.
What's speedball?
It's basically kings but two-sided, where like you win, you stay and serve receive, you lose, you wave off, and the group behind you waves on. Okay.
Okay.
But we would try to do as many games as possible, like, and they would have different rules. Like sometimes, like it would be kings, but it would be like, all right, kings, but you can only score by going on an option ball.
Yeah.
And if you can't option, then you have to give a free ball, stuff like that.
Got it.
Just so they would train like specific skill sets that we worked on for the day. Like if they're on my court, we're working on the option balls, and the gameplay would resemble that.
Yeah.
That way we're getting something like, hey, you trained it, all right, now go play it as well. And challenge matches, we would always do challenge matches after our hour skill session, because like I hate doing 2 hours of technical work because I think it's really boring for me as a coach. And when I played, I was like, it's
tough,
monotonous. Like it was just so, like again, it was just boring. Like I just would lose interest and I just wouldn't get anything out of it. So I would tell the guys like the first practice, like, all right, this is what we're gonna do the first hour every single day. You do it well, all right, then you get to play.
Yeah.
If you don't focus on it, you don't do well with the actual skill training we're trying to get out and do, all right, we're just not gonna play. Like
I like that.
That's what you guys want to do at the end of the day. You guys want to play as much as you want. Like, you got to earn it. So that was like our biggest thing. What was that? Like, hey, we want quality reps. Like, we want quantity too, but we want quality on top of the quantity.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm sure you've probably grown a lot as a coach.
Yeah, like I've had a lot of coaches from my youth that were very good, some not as great, and I learned a lot from them, like what I did and didn't want to do because I knew I wanted to be a coach. Like, I learned from them, like, hey, I really hate doing skill training for 2 to 3 hours. Like, in college, my college coach, we would have 3-hour practices, and the whole 3 hours would be technical work. And I was like, that was one thing I was like, he was an okay coach, but I was like, I can't stand doing technical work for 3 hours. Like, this is not going to get me better.
Yeah.
So that was like the one thing I was like, I want gameplay. I want skill training, but I want gameplay. So like, I never wanted play to be the first thing we did, because then it's like, all right, the guys are like, I wanted them to actually train something and then try to implement it into the gameplay when we got to it. And same thing, you earn gameplay. Like that was my thing. Like if you did well enough in the skill training, like you get to play longer.
I like
play
that
more.
Earning gameplay, because then they're going to stay a little bit more focused during the technical side.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to do technical stuff for 2 hours. No. Not many people anyway.
No. Yeah, I've been playing for 20 years, and that was like the biggest thing for me, was like trying to find the middle ground of like, we got to get this done as well, like getting the technical work and the skill-based work, and then also being like, okay, we got to appease them and get the gameplay. Plus, it's easier on me too as a coach, like for practice plans. Like I only have to practice plan technically for an hour, versus 2 hours, and I mean, even in that hour practice planning, like however long my practice or however long that practice is for the skill training, like how long it takes me to plan an actual practice. Like we're doing an hour of practice of skill training, it takes me like 45 minutes to actually figure out what I want to do in that skill training session.
And it's hard to do technical stuff for that long with just one coach and maybe an assistant, because then it's on the kids to hold themselves accountable to doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
But you only have so many eyes. And so they could be training the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it.
Yeah. So like the first week of practice when we're doing preseason, like we'll do like an hour and a half of skill training, do a little bit longer, like a little less time in the actual like per court like rotation, but we'll do 2 different skill training rotations. So like the first round of 3 would be like maybe defense, offense, gameplay. Like offense being like whatever, like the shots, and the second round would be like, all right, we're gonna do serve, receive, blocking, and cardio.
Yeah.
So and then last 30 minutes would be like, all right, play a set against these guys, or play to 15 against these guys, and then rotate around based on winners, losers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how our first week to 2 weeks usually goes, and then after that, it's like, okay, we got what we needed to out of that. Like basically that first 2 weeks is for them to get back, into the swing of things for the sand, because most of them have probably played either grass, maybe a little indoor, maybe a little beach. Like it's like, all right, we're gonna go full-time beach now, like get in the beach mode now.
Yeah. You mentioned challenge matches. I'm curious how you structure those, like how you do those, because when I was a high school golfer, we would do them. Mm-hmm. But golf's a little bit different because everyone's playing against the same course, and it's very objective. But there's a level difference. And so you could only do a challenge match. Like if you started 6 kids and you kept your 4 best scores, and then you took your total and the team with the lowest score won. So if I was our number 3 and I shot a 38 and our number 4 shot a 40, he couldn't challenge me because he didn't beat me in the match. But if it was flipped, if he shot a 40 and I shot a 38, or he shot 38, I shot 40, then he could challenge me in practice. But beach volleyball is different because, like, if your 4s lose but your 5s win, it's a different level that they're playing against. It's not as objective. I'm curious how you structure your challenge matches.
Yeah, so each week we'll do either evens challenging up or odds challenging up. So
Okay.
how I do it the first week, I always start with evens just because it makes the most sense. 2s-v1s, 4s-v3s. How we did it this year was no matter what, it was a match play system. So because almost all my guys could make every practice.
Right.
Because I kind of had them schedule their classes around it as much as they could. You know, if 1s beat 2s Monday, all right, Tuesday they're playing again no matter what.
Yeah.
And then say 2s beat 1s, all right, now they're playing a third match that is to decide if they move up or down.
Got it.
If the same team won both matches, they either stayed or moved up based on who won. So like if the 2s won both Monday and Tuesday, then yeah, they're now they're 1s, the 1s are down to 2s.
Got it. So you do like a series of 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How I'm gonna do it with the women, just because it's their class schedules, like I can't. Like, it's impossible for me to tell them like, hey, we're practicing this time. Like, move your classes around. Like, it's just not possible. We have so many health science majors and nursing majors. Like, it's just not possible. So, how we're doing it with them is if the lower seed wins the first match, then they'll play a best of match series.
Okay.
If the higher seed wins, the higher pair wins.
Got it.
They're
Just
automatically in, like one and done. That way, it's like, all right, we can get the most out of it. Because like I can almost guarantee, like we had a women's pair last year that missed practice for 3 weeks straight because they were in clinicals. Like it was just not possible. They literally just could not make practice. But they were our 2s pair because they were so good.
Right.
So it was just like, it kind of sucked. Like we couldn't make them challenge during practice. Like they had a challenge else at other times.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was impossible for them to challenge during practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the goal for them this year. Is it'll be like a trial and error run to see how they like it, and if it works out that they like it, like the women do, and then I'll do it with the men as well. And when I talked to the men for their exit meetings before the semester ended, they were all kind of on board with it as well, because then they also don't have to play the same team over and over again. Because that's kind of everyone kind of found their place by the end of the year. Like our 1s stayed at 1s, our 2s basically stayed at 2s, our 3s same thing, 4s. Our 4s, 5s, and 6s kind of moved around a little bit at the end of the year, but they were pretty much settled for like 80% of the year.
Yeah.
And same thing, 7, 8s, and our 9s, they were pretty much set in stone from day 1 to, day 120.
Makes sense. How do you ref those?
I tell them to call their own.
I bet that gets a little tight.
It does. Like I'm actually like I'm a proposer of like use your hands at any moment. Like I don't care. Like always use your hands. Make the ref make a call. Ref makes a call. Great. Like in an actual match.
Yeah.
And like we found out that the reffing was a little all over the place, especially up here because like we don't have official beach refs up here.
Yeah.
We just have indoor refs that are reffing beach as well. Like a couple of my grass friends actually were beach refs for a couple of our matches. And they were like, we don't know how tight to call it. And I'm like, call it like you would grass, but a little less, or a little more lenient, like only a little bit. And they're like, okay. And I was like, that's what I train my guys to do. Like, use your hands at any given moment, make the ref make an actual call. Because like I know, like for grass, like for old school rules like that I play, it's like perfection, perfection, perfection.
Got it.
And then for beach, obviously they're getting away from that. It's like actually look at the hands, not the ball spin.
Right.
Grass is like, yeah, look at the ball spin.
Got it.
But like for us, I'm like, just use your hands at any given moment. I don't care if you're chasing the ball 30 feet away from the court. Like use your hands if you can.
Fling that thing.
Like literally just chuck it. Like I don't care. Like make the ref have to make a tough call. And if it's something that I disagree with, I promise you I will argue for you. Like I'll never, like if you were at fault, I will tell you you're at fault.
Right.
Like I'll be completely blunt and honest with my own guys, and they know it. And again, it keeps them humble and also lets them know like, okay, like I can't do that in the game.
Right.
Because like if coach is calling it, they're probably gonna call it in the game.
Got it. Man, I'd be so curious to see what happened if we had challenge matches with our girls and it was self-refed.
We did, yeah. I mean, we had a couple, like, because we had 18, we'd always have 2 guys off, and those 2 guys that were off would at least ref to some degree, or like they'd like watch the courts from the middle, and like if they saw something that was obscure, they'd be like, yeah, that was like, if they would just be like, hey, did you guys see that? If they saw it, they'd be like, hey, was that bad? And like, yeah, bad, or no, it was fine, stuff like that. And, and same thing, I'm watching all 4 courts. So they'll ask me like, what'd you see if you saw it? And I'd give my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you guys decide if like amongst yourself, if you can't come to a conclusion, then come to me.
Yeah.
Like I want them to figure it out on their own too, so that they know if it
Right.
was truly bad or not.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, well, it all worked out. You guys are national champs. That had to have been a pretty cool moment because that was first time you guys played Weber in the finals. First time you ever beat Weber. First time you won a national championship. It's pretty sweet, man.
Yeah, we had lost to them back when we played at Liberty this year back in October. We lost 5-0. Like we just didn't play well. They played incredibly well. Weber did. They were very good. And even the first day of nationals, they beat us 5-0. And even that 5-0, I was like, it wasn't convincing to me that they beat us 5-0. Like
Those scores can be deceiving because it can be 5-0 with 5-3 setters.
Yeah.
Or it could be 3-2, but your 3 wins were like 21-10. So the end score is, I think, a little bit more deceiving than people think.
Yeah, like our twos, like our true twos, because we ended up switching things for the national championship. Our true twos lost in 3 against their true twos, and our fours lost in 3, I believe, as well. Or maybe, I think they lost in 3, and it was like 15-13 in the third.
Yeah.
And then our fives lost, I believe, in 2, but it was like 21-19, 21-19. Like, it was like the closest we had ever been. And I remember looking at the scores, and I'm like, they're beatable. Like, and then after that match, that's when I brought the team together. I brought my captains together first, my ones pairs, Johnny and Tim.
Yeah.
I brought them into the van, and I was like, hey, like we gotta talk logistics here. We still have another 2 matches, and we can change lineups around for both of these matches. Like I want to figure out or I guess we had one more match after that. We had Liberty just left. I was like, I want to figure things out. Like this is my plan, and it was to move my 2s down to 3s and my 3s up to 2s, leave my 1s where they were, and then just that way it was planned. It was to plan for the next day because like, you can only move up and down once, and we knew that once playoffs lineups were in, they were in for the entire
and
day.
They're set. Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is the plan for playoffs for Saturday. Like I want to make sure we're doing it right. Like I want to make sure we're getting it, or Sunday, I guess it was Sunday. Like I just want to make sure we have the best lineup we can against Weber because like I'm not planning for Erskine like in the best way possible. I was like, we should beat them,
right?
Because we've played well against them all year, minus the one time we played them down there. But like, we should beat them. I would hope we beat them, no matter what lineup we put in.
Right.
And so like against Liberty, we had that change, moved our 2s down to 3s, 3s up to 2s, and the next day, I brought the whole team together in the van before we even left to go out to the courts, and I said, okay, here's the plan. We need all guys on board for this plan, even the 6s that are off. Like we need all guys that are on board.
Yeah.
We're moving our 2s, who are our 3s, up to 1s. We're going to move Johnny and Tim, our 1s, down to 2s. And we're going to we're going to move our 4s down to 5s, and our 5s up to 4s. Because I was like, no matter what, we should get 3 wins. Our 2s, 3s, and 5s at that point. So even against Erskine, should get those wins.
Yeah.
That's all we need. So because our 1s were our 3s now, and we had an injury, so we actually had to. I had been given some different information from the refs. They weren't 100% certain about the injury rule.
Right.
So the last game on Saturday against Liberty, one of my 3s pairs, one of my guys like started cramping. He like couldn't play because of his calf, and so the last match he played was at 3s. And when I moved him up to 1s, he couldn't move up 2 places.
Okay.
And I had been told the wrong thing. So like 2 minutes or 3 minutes before the match started against Erskine, I had to tell my one of my injury guys, my 6s guys, that actually played that injury match the day before. I had to tell him like, hey, you're playing. Like, go to 1s. I was like, hey, go play at the 1s right now.
Yeah.
Like, you have to play. And they did well, but like that was like our sacrifice team. Like, and they knew. And like again, like I told them before. I was like, hey, like, I know this is what it looks like, and it is what it is. Like, I know it is. Like, it just, I want to win. I know you guys want to win. And
Yeah.
they were both like, it's fine. Like, this is what we want too.
Yeah.
We want to win.
Team players.
So they were all on board. Same thing with our 5s. I moved up to 4s. Like, even there, I thought that they could win both at the 5s and the 4s.
Right.
Like, I was fully on their side. I fully believed in them, and they barely lost at the 4s against Weber, and they beat Erskine 4s as well. Like, I was like, you guys did your job. You guys played really well. And the week prior, they were at 6s. they kept clawing their way. Like, they were at 6s all year, and they finally did their challenge match. Like, every challenge match, they'd lose the 3rd match of the challenge match series in 3, like 15-13 or 16-14. They finally won. And that was like another thing. Like, when we got down there, I held a captain's meeting with our top 2 pairs. I was like, do I really want to play them? Like, I want them to play because they earned it.
Right.
They're at the 5s. But like, I was like, they're kind of on a short leash. Like, if they lose that first match and it's bad, like they play bad,
right?
Like, or they goof around, like, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna put them back to the 6s and I'm gonna change them out. And they won the first match like very convincingly against Erskine. I was like, okay, like they're in, like they're bought in. I'm leaving them. And they earned their spot, like, and that's why even when I moved them to 4s, I was like, they could win at the 4s. Like, I really believe that they could even win at the 4s here. They played so well. So, I mean, the movement of the pairs, like, it's something I've never really done until nationals, because like, no one really does it for the men. Like, no one really moves pairs around to find a better matchup. I know for the men, it's obviously a little different. There's a lot more
things
movement.
change a lot.
Like, for the men, it's like, your spot is your spot. Like, very rarely do you change, which is like, I knew that Weber wouldn't change when they had their lineup set. And they also played the first match, and we played the second match after them.
Yeah.
So I got to see their lineup a little early, but like, we were already going to do our lineup anyway.
Right.
But I got to see their lineup. I'm like, okay, that's what I figured they would do anyway.
Yeah.
So like, once theirs was in, mine was in, I was like, okay, like I think that this is our best shot.
Yeah. What was it like watching? Because it comes down, split 2-2, comes down to a 3rd set on court 2. What was that like? Because the environment, I think that's the best environment in volleyball. I think I think like professionally, I would love to see like United States versus Brazil versus Germany versus Switzerland. I think it's epic, especially when it comes down to that last court for a national championship. Like, that was awesome.
It was stressful. So like, for me, I didn't want to keep moving back and forth between courts. So like, when we had the 4s and 5s playing at the same time, I stayed up the 4s the entire time.
Got it.
Also, my 5s told me they didn't want me to coach them. They were like, you stress us out. And I'm like, okay. I was like, you guys got it. And they won. They took care of business on their own.
Yeah.
So when it came to our 1s, 2s, and 3s playing, again, because our 1s were like our quote-unquote sacrifice, I didn't really go over to watch them. Plus, Keeter and Barnes are a different level, different breed of volleyball.
Aiden Keeter, Carson Barnes, they're legit. They're very good. Yeah,
like, I got to play them firsthand back in May, and like we were competitive in some regard, but like, watching them from May to where they were at nationals, I was like, this is a different breed of volleyball from even 6 months ago.
Very talented. I was impressed watching them because I hadn't seen either of them play or really heard their names. And Carson Barnes is like a younger, a little bit smaller Logan Weber. Mm-hmm. And then Aiden, his ball control is awesome. He's doing these little like poke sets across the court. I'm like, damn, that's for real.
Yeah, he's I think Aiden is very, very, very good. Like, Carson's obviously very good, but I think Aiden picked up Carson.
Yeah.
And Carson's from Delaware. Like, he was between Weber and us when he was looking at schools. Because when we announced that we were starting Beach, the old head coach was like heavily recruiting him.
Yeah.
And obviously he chose Weber at the end of the day. And I mean, good choice for him. Aiden was there.
Yeah.
Now they're playing for the collegiate national team, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so like, 1's pair, didn't really want to go over to watch because I kind of just knew the result of what it was. Like, obviously our guys were competitive to some regard, but like, I just knew
that's a spunky second set.
Yeah. It was 16-16, I think, at one point, or 15-16.
Yeah, I think they were up 12-9 at the Tech. And I was like, man, I think Carson and Aiden got a little sleepy because that first set was like 21-7 or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And but then when Carson and Aiden decided it was kind of time, then it was time. But yeah, I mean, your boys, they had some fight.
Yeah, and it's like, I kind of knew the result, what it was going to be. Even if they went to 3, I was like, all right, if they go to 3, Carson and Aiden are going to be pissed. Like, they're going to do their thing.
Yeah.
So like, I stayed at my threes for actually a lot of it, because like they were my pair that I was most worried about.
Yeah.
I was worried about Ryan and Ant playing against Joao and I think it was Max from Weber. And like we controlled the first set pretty well, and I was going between both courts a little bit, but I was definitely at my threes for like maybe 17, 18 points out of the 35 or 40 that happened. Like I was with them for a lot of it. And I was like, hey, you got to make sure you're doing your thing against Max. Like get him the ball every time. Like don't let Joao play volleyball. Like make him set. Don't let him play volleyball otherwise. And we controlled at the threes for like the entire match, 1 and 2. They scared me at the end because we were up like 20-17 or 2016, and then it became like 2019. I'm like, can you just win?
Man, we were keeping up with it because we were commentating, and so we're commentating this way on court 1. Mm-hmm. To our left is court 2, and then diagonal was 3. But then if we like peeked out from under the tent, we could see the big scoreboard with all the scores. And so we're telling viewers like, hey, this is what's happening. Court 3 seems to be pretty wrapped up because it was like 1914 or something in the second. And then we were like, all right, it's 1916. All right, it's 2018. Here we go, shit.
Because at that point, when they were up like 1914, I went over to my twos pair to go coach them because they had struggled that first set. They lost the first set, so I went over to coach them. Yeah. And then they started controlling their second set. And then I saw the score. I'm like, what is going on? So I sprinted over back to my threes. I'm like, thankfully, they called a timeout as I got there. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah. And they're like, the right side, Ryan's like, they started serving me. It's like the first time all game. I'm like, okay, so score. I was like, what's not been working? And he's like, well, I just haven't been passing well. I'm like, okay, well, you know the ball's coming to you. Yeah. So pass it well. Like, just know that it goes straight up and down, like in front of you. Like, don't even try to pass it to the middle. Like, literally just straight up in front of you at the 4 spot for our number system. People know that. I was like, just pass in the 4 spot. Run your normal 5s. Like, don't run a 50. Don't go fast. Just go super high. Right. Go OT. Like, you're a freak. Just try to go OT. Do your shot. Do whatever you need. And then he goes and does a 50 and swings right at the defender. And that was to make it 2019. I'm like, yeah. And then the next point, I was like, Ryan, are you going to listen to me this time? He's like, yeah, I will. And then he finally did the 5, like normal 5, and then swung and scored, like hard cross. I was like, thank you. Go high 5. I'm going to run the other court. Yeah. And then at that point, I think we were just about starting set 3. Got it. And then we controlled that entire set.
Yeah.
Like, we were controlling the entire set, and then I believe it was like 13-10. They scored like just a normal side out point, and then we called a timeout. I was like, okay, like we just need one pass, just get to 14-11. We'll make our life easier on the bad side. Like we just need to score 1 point on the bad side then. And then we get aced. Passing a ball, it's going probably 7-8 feet out of bounds because like we just don't want to mess up. Yeah. And of course we mess up because we think that way. Right. Go to the other side. And the first thing I said was like, you know the ball's out. And he's like, yeah, I know. So we score the next point finally, go to 14-12. Yeah. They call a timeout, I believe. Or no, they scored the next point, just a regular side out point, 14-13. I believe they called a timeout. And I talked with my guys. I'm like, okay, this is all we need. Like, we just need a point. They're going to serve Johnny. Johnny, do your thing. Like, you know where to pass it. You know, you've done this a million times. Do whatever you need. And does his play. He jumbos the block. They block a 2, defender down the line. And Johnny does a jumbo to the corner. And like after celebrating and everything, because that was the match point, we celebrated and Shannon, whatever. We go to Johnny and we're like, everyone's like, Johnny, we've never seen you jumbo. He's like, I've never jumboed in a match before. He's like, that's the first jumbo I've ever done in a match.
No kidding.
And
he does it for the national championship.
To win. I was like, what kind of balls do you have to do that on match point? I was like, good for you for making it work. I was like, you scared the living daylights out of every single person in the stadium that was cheering for Stevenson, because no one in their right mind would think that you would do a jumbo, because you, like, even at practice. Yeah, we do it. Only in skill training sessions where we've done like shots a couple times that he's done jumbos. Yeah. And they don't work out that well. Like, he doesn't have the touch for the jumbo. Like, he has the touch for everything else. Yeah. Jumbo's not a shot. So like when he did it, like he knew that that's what they were gonna do. Right. But he was like, yeah, I just thought the jumbo would work. I'm like, hey, it worked.
It worked.
Scared us. No one in their right mind thought that was the shot you would do.
No, that's hilarious. Because I remember, like, and Sarah Pavin has this great quote where she said, as the game gets closer to the line, like, players are going to lean on their strengths. And it's hilarious that he did that. And I think a 2 or a dive angle is the best thing you could do, either at the beginning or the end of a match, because the two most common shots in beach volleyball are hard angle swing or high line, and you're hedging against both of them. It's not often you're going to see someone jumbo at 14-13 for a national championship on the line, especially when he doesn't do it.
Yeah, and that ball landed maybe like 1.5 feet in at best. Like, he put it as deep as possible.
Jumbo.
Like 1.5 feet from the back line, maybe 2 feet in from the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you found the corner.
Yeah.
As much as you could. I was like, again, like, I wasn't upset because obviously we won. I'm like,
delivered.
I was like, if you would have hit that out, I would have been upset. I was like, that was not your shot.
Yeah. Well, what a cool moment. It was funny. It was even like a cool moment for me. I was like, this small school from my town in Maryland just won a beach volleyball national championship. I think it speaks to how far and wide the game is going, that a team from Northwest Maryland can be the beach volleyball national championship. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, for us to bring back a championship, like the women brought one back in, I believe it was 2019, or I believe they won back then. And the only other sport that's won a national championship was lacrosse here. So to bring the third national championship of any sort back here was something special. Like, we got on the plane, and the first thing we did was tell the pilots. They gave us a good announcement on the plane. Yeah. And it was kind of sad because there was a couple Weber parents on the plane too. Because we were flying. It was like our first layover from Huntsville out to Atlanta. So I was like, ooh, this is a little rough, but whatever. But it was funny. But yeah, I mean, bringing it back here was awesome. It was like the biggest thing. And like, the first thing everyone said when we got back was like, yo, congrats on winning. Like, how's it feel? I'm like, I'll be honest, still doesn't feel surreal. Like, it just like doesn't feel like it's just another day for me. Like, just coming back to the job, and like everyone just keeps congratulating me. I'm just working. It's like, I didn't even have the trophy. It was still in my place. I forgot to bring it the first day back, and everyone's like, "Where's the trophy?" I'm like, it's just not here."
Yeah, man, that's funny. So what's next for Stevenson? How do you like kind of recover from a national championship? Because you guys are pretty old this year, right? Yeah,
we lost 3 out of our 4 top players from our 1s and 2s pairs.
Got it.
So replacing them is going to be very difficult. We have a good amount of guys coming in that should be starting in 1s through 5, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And obviously our guys that are already here, that are still here, they'll be moving up and down depending on partnerships and everything. But it will be very tough to repeat next year. Like, I've already talked to the guys. They're like, all their goals are like for next year is to repeat. I'm like, yeah, that's my goal too. It should be. Just know it's gonna be way, way tougher than last year. Like, it's gonna be astronomically harder because like we are losing, 75% of our starting 2 pairs. Like, it's hard to replace that. Plus, the one guy that's left from those 2 pairs has played with that guy for the last 2 years.
Right.
So he's gonna have to learn a new partner. He's gonna have to learn a new game with a new partner. So it's gonna be a lot the first 2 weeks. Like, this year, like, I kind of knew partnerships going into the season. Like, I kind of already knew who was going to be with who to some degree. And this next year is going to be very tough to figure out who fits best with who.
Yeah.
Because we have so many, moving pieces now.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. Well, congrats. I'm curious because you've won. I mean, grass. You've won pretty much like all there is to win.
Yeah, minus Pottstown.
You have won Pottstown?
I got second once and semifinals once or twice.
Man, I remember. I feel like every grass tournament I looked, it was like you and Nate. I was like, all right, well, that's an automatic win for Ian and Nate. What were some of the bigger grass tournaments that you've won? Wapaka?
If you count, technically, I won this year. Like, it got rained out, so the 6 remaining teams just split the prize money.
Oh,
so
bummer.
Kind of sucked, and that was like
Who'd
the best
with?
team. It was me, Nate Herschel from Lights Out Volleyball, and Cody Caldwell.
I freaking love Cody. Dude, that's a good team. Holy hell. Between you, Cody, I don't know Herschel, but between you, Cody, and Nate, that's a physical team.
Yeah, we were rolling. The team that we played in the quarters that we ended up beating right before the lightning storm, whatever it was, they had just beaten Troy Field and I think it was Tim Baumgren. I forget who their third was.
Doesn't matter.
They
Good
just
team.
beaten them like 30-26 or 27.
Yeah.
And then we got to play them, and we were like at that point now it was best of 3, 21-15, and we won 21-16, 21-14. Like we rolled. Smoked them. Like I went on like a multi-ace run. Cody was blocking. Nate was doing his thing. Like we were just rolling. And then our next round was against either Queckel and Max Martin, and it was between them and Blake Reardon from North Carolina. He's a North Carolina guy.
Anyone from the Carolinas, pretty good grass community out there.
Yeah, it was him, this guy named Drew Riley. He's like he makes like 5'9", but he skies out of the gym, like just ripped. And he's
grass, it doesn't really matter
good.
a whole lot. You can...
It was Blake. Blake's like 6'5".
Yeah.
And his two partners were like 5'9" and 5'9".
Yeah.
Like super small, but like they were rolling. Like they were in set 3. I think it was 8-8 on center court.
Yeah.
For their quarterfinal before the rain started. And it was like either one of those whoever we played there was like, we have an amazing chance to make the final. So I was like, that would have been our semi.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're gonna be gassed. They're gonna be tired. Plus, we're just so much more physical than either one of these teams. And then on the other side, like we would have had to play Cupcakes, the Colorado Cupcakes, the Bazies and Thomas.
Got it. Are they good grass players?
I got to play them firsthand at Marshall Madness in Kentucky this year. A different breed.
Really?
Like,
because they're so shooty on the beach.
They were.
And grass is such a physical game.
They were out of system fiends. Like I was, like Marshall. Like I don't know what was going on, but like I was serving like 70 mile an hour with the grass ball, like as hard as I could, and they were just diming the ball, like I shouldn't say diming. They were passing the ball like 30 feet in the air. And they were just at system setting, perfect balls, and they would side out every time. I'm like, this is crazy. I've never seen someone pass a ball, forearm pass it from 10 feet off the court to the perfect set. And they I shouldn't say they cooked us, but like it was like 15 to like 11, and we were down like the entire time.
Got
it.
It
was like
that's side out scoring.
Yeah. It was like kind of humbling. We're like, wow, this is kind of sad. Like we were just like trying to do everything we could, and it was just like no matter what we did.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like if you're
crazy.
bombing serves and they're just diming him, you're like, all right, well, good job. I'll try again.
Like they were 3-man pass. They started 3-man passing, and they brought their setter back, and then I just started serving him, and they're like, all right, let's just 2-man.
Yeah.
And the 2-man was better than the 3-man. I was like, this is crazy. I've never seen a 2-man pass better than a 3-man.
That was the Bazies and Thomas Hurst.
It was I think it's the younger one. Is it Gage?
I think.
Or Lars?
I think Lars
I forget which one it was.
Gage is younger.
No, I think it was Gage. It was Gage and Thomas, and then this lefty Indian setter. I think he played at IPFW. Maybe.
Okay.
I can't remember where he played, but I'd recognize him from somewhere. I just can't remember his name. But he was a freak as well. Like, he just couldn't pass as well, but like any perfect pass, he would swing onto or fake us on an on-two swing and set. Like incredible player. But yeah, playing like I knew going to Wapaka playing against, if we were to play, because it was both Bazies and Thomas. Like a little better of a team than what we saw at Marshall. I was like, they're on the other side of the bracket. They had just beaten Chandler North and Tyler Wills, who are like the Wisconsin, phenoms from up there, and like two of my closer friends. Shout out to them. They just got engaged.
Oh, congratulations.
And I'm actually playing with them this year at Kentucky in Marshall Madness. But yeah, like Wapaka is like the one where same thing, like got second once, lost to Nolan Albright and Tomas Goldsmith.
Nolan's freaking good, man.
Very. I actually was almost going to be an assistant for him at Liberty this past.
Really?
Potentially. Like I talked to him a little bit about it. If that was like a potential thing. He ended up not getting the job, so like I just wasn't going to bother even applying with the new guy. I was like, I just talked with him a little bit about it, if that was like even a thing. Just because my wife's there actually right now. She's at Liberty.
Oh, wow.
So, and she actually went here at Stevenson originally.
Fascinating.
So small world.
Yeah.
But, like I talked to him a little bit about it, but like obviously everything fell through, so I like didn't even bother. Like just never. Like I was never. It was more like just keep my throwing everything into one, not throwing everything in one basket.
Where is Nolan at then?
I don't know.
Okay, because I thought he did get the job at Liberty.
No, so they went with